The overall goal of this procedure is to inhibit or knock down the expression of a specific protein in the regenerating adult zebrafish tail fin. This is accomplished by first amputating the tail fin and allowing a small amount of tissue to regenerate. Next, Morpholino solution is micro-injected into each blastema on one half of the fin. The Morpholino is then electroporated into the cells of the blastema, and the other half of the fin is electroporated for control purposes. Finally, the effect of reduced target protein expression on regenerative outgrowth is analyzed. Ultimately, the results show inhibition of tissue regeneration through comparative analysis of the regenerative outgrowth of the injected and non-injected halves of the fin.
The implications of this technique extend toward therapy of wound healing and regenerative medicine because of the potential to uncover genes and signaling pathways that are essential to tissue regeneration.
To prepare fluorescein-tagged Morpholino, dilute 300 nanomoles into 100 microliters of nuclease-free water to make an approximately 3 millimolar solution. Aliquot the solution into multiple paraffin-sealed microcentrifuge tubes and store at room temperature away from light. To determine the exact Morpholino concentration, see the written protocol for details. Anesthetize adult zebrafish in either tricaine or 2-phenoxyethanol at 1 mg per milliliter in tank water. When the fish is fully anesthetized, place it on the clean lid of a petri dish and, using a sterile scalpel or razor blade, amputate the fin proximal to the first lepidotracheal branching point.
It is important to cut the fin perfectly perpendicular to the anterior-posterior plane of the animal, because angled cuts will result in uneven fin outgrowth of the dorsal and ventral halves of the fin.
Return the fish to the tank and keep it at 33 degrees Celsius to increase the regeneration rate. Depending on the experimental design, wait 0 to 2 days post-amputation for fin regeneration to begin before introducing the Morpholino. The day before Morpholino injection, make an injection plate with 2% agarose that has a notch cut out at one end of the well, which will help stabilize the fish for the injection procedure. Just before injecting, dilute the fluorescein-tagged Morpholino in RNase and DNase-free water to the proper concentration, and incubate it in a 65 degrees Celsius water bath for 5 minutes. Load a previously prepared injection needle and cut off the tip at an angle. Next, anesthetize the fish and place it on the injection plate. Remove all excess liquid and place the plate on the stage of a stereo microscope. Orient the needle just distal to the bony ray. Insert the needle gently into the regenerative tissue, just distal to each bony ray, and push distally until located in the blastema. When the needle is correctly localized, follow the microinjection system directions and inject a 5 nanoliter drop of the Morpholino per injection. With each injection, a yellow puff of Morpholino solution can be seen, which helps localize the injection to the blastema. Working dorsally from the midline, inject approximately 75 nanoliters of Morpholino per bony ray on the dorsal side, leaving the ventral side as an electroporation-only control. Immediately following injection of the Morpholino, remove the injection plate from the microinjection apparatus. Fill the injection plate well with the anesthesia solution until the fish is submerged. To ensure that the electroporator electrodes do not touch the fin tissue, rotate the fish on its dorsal side and look straight down the midline for electroporation. Set the electroporation parameters to 10 consecutive 50 millisecond pulses at 15 volts, with a 1-second pause between pulses. With 3 mm diameter platinum plate tweezer electrodes set close to, but not touching the fins, electroporate both the dorsal and ventral sides of the fin. To prevent charge buildup from bubbles that may form, wipe the electrodes with a damp Kim wipe after each electroporation. Finally, place the fish on a glass slide or petri dish and quickly image the fin, making sure to note the dorsal-ventral orientation. This image will be used for regrowth analysis on the following day. Return the fish to the tank. If the targeted protein is required for proper fin regeneration, a dramatic difference between the dorsal and ventral halves of the fin should be evident 1 day post-electroporation or 3 days post-amputation. Take another picture of the fin and match up this image with the corresponding 2 days post-amputation image taken after electroporation. Using NIH image, trace the 2 days post-amputation and the 3 days post-amputation areas of both the dorsal and ventral halves. To determine the percent area of dorsal versus ventral fin growth, use the following formula. The quantity dorsal 3 days post-amputation minus dorsal 2 days amputation divided by the quantity ventral 3 days post-amputation minus ventral 2 days post-amputation times 100 equals percent area. When assaying for fin outgrowth at 3 days post-amputation or 24 hours post-electroporation, the fluorescein-tagged Morpholino should be present in the dorsal half of the fin. It's normal to see some trailing down to the level of the amputation. When a control Morpholino is injected into the dorsal half of the fin 24 hours post-electroporation, equal outgrowth to that on the ventral side is seen. As shown here, injecting the dorsal half of the fin with an experimental Morpholino inhibits regrowth on that side.
Following this procedure, other methods like immunohistochemistry, in situ hybridization, real-time PCR, and immunoblotting can be performed in order to answer additional questions, like what genetic pathways are required for regeneration.
All right, let's jump right into this explainer. If you've ever found yourself wondering exactly how biology pulls off the seemingly impossible feat of complex tissue regeneration, like a zebrafish rebuilding a completely severed fin, well, you are in the perfect place. Today, we're literally opening up the scientific toolbox to lift at one very specific, incredibly powerful technique. We're going to dive deep into its real-world applications in the lab, and just as importantly, we're going to unpack the strict limitations researchers hit when using it. Think about it like this. If you want to figure out what one specific gear does inside a really complex, intricate watch, the single most effective way to do that is to take the gear out and see what stops working, right? Well, to unravel the mystery of tissue regeneration, researchers do something very similar. They literally turn off specific genes to see what parts of the healing process suddenly fail. By watching what breaks, they can map out the exact job of the gene they just suppressed.
So, here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the regeneration toolbox, move into our first application with early-stage healing, check out our second application with tracking cell migration, dig into the current technique limitations, and finally, look at the future of regeneration.
Starting off with Section 1, the Regeneration Toolbox. Let's unbox this biological hardware.
So, what is this technique actually doing? Scientists call it a loss-of-function approach. It's this highly specialized method used to conditionally knock down or actively suppress very specific proteins right in the middle of a zebrafish regrowing its fin. It operates kind of like a genetic dimmer switch, and it's already a proven tool. Researchers have successfully used it to study a whole array of things during fin outgrowth. We're talking gap junction genes, signaling receptors, transcription factors, and microRNAs. But the real excitement right now, it's all about how scientists are adapting this tool for even more precise studies.
Which brings us to Section 2. Our first application, early-stage healing, specifically targeting the blastema.
Okay, so here is where it gets really interesting. Researchers are taking this existing tool and using it to study the absolute earliest moments of wound healing. To pull this off, they've developed a super precise 3-step physical procedure. First, right before amputation, they inject and electroporate, which basically means using little electrical pulses to push in, a synthetic gene blocker called a Morpholino. They put this right between the bony fin rays on the top or dorsal half of the fin. Step 2, they amputate the fin immediately distal to, meaning just outside of that exact injection line. And finally, Step 3, They just wait. They observe the biological response exactly 24 hours post-amputation, or what the scientists abbreviate as 24-HPA. And the results at that 24-hour mark? Honestly, they're striking. Just 1 day after the cut, scientists saw that the cells they tagged with that Morpholino had successfully migrated outward. They literally moved to form both the wound epithelium and the blastema, which is that crucial mass of cells that actually drives growth and regeneration. This is a massive win for researchers. It definitively proves that cells operating during these incredibly early, foundational stages of regeneration can absolutely be targeted by this loss-of-function technique.
Moving right along to Section 3, our second application, tracking cell migration. Let's watch these cells move.
So if we know we can target early-stage cells, can we test specific ideas about how they travel? This is such a brilliant use case. They wanted to test proteins thought to be responsible for helping cells migrate from the underlying tissues straight up to the blastema. To set this up, researchers injected that Morpholino into both sides of the fin before the cut. But here's the really clever part. On the dorsal half, they made the cut right next to the injection site, just like before. But on the ventral or bottom half, they amputated much farther away from the injection site.
When you look at what happened at 24 hours, the contrast is just incredible. On the dorsal side, where the cut was right next door to the injection, the targeted cells migrated perfectly up into the blastema. But on the ventral side, where the cut was far away, nothing. Those cells didn't migrate at all. This strongly supports the idea that only the cells sitting directly underneath the cut actually participate in the healing response. And the bigger takeaway here? It proves this technique is absolutely perfect for testing the specific proteins involved in getting cells to move.
But, of course, it's not all perfect. Section 4, Current Technique Limitations. Time to read the warning label.
Like any scientific tool, no matter how powerful, this one has its boundaries. The source lists 3 very specific limitations right now. First off, the fluorescent tag they use, the glow simply doesn't last after the tissues are processed for observation. Because that glow fades, researchers can't easily correlate cell behavior with how much Morpholino is actually inside a cell. Second, trying to electroporate larger DNA plasmids into the regenerating fin has been super inconsistent, despite some past reports saying otherwise. And third, well, there's a ticking clock.
And that ticking clock is exactly 48 hours. The Morpholino is only effective for roughly 48 hours post-electroporation. That's it. That is the absolute maximum window this genetic knockdown tool works before its biological battery completely dies. So why is that 48-hour limit such a big deal? Well, because the genetic knockdown just shuts off after 2 days, researchers are currently locked out of testing genes involved in cell differentiation. Differentiation happens a bit later in the healing process, when generic tissue finally decides, okay, I'm going to become specific bone or skin or blood vessel cells. Right now, this time limit completely prohibits scientists from using this awesome method to study that critical phase of rebuilding. Finally, Section 5, the future of regeneration, pushing past the boundaries. Let's look out at the horizon for a second. Despite those hurdles we just talked about, the outlook is actually incredibly positive. Science is iterative, right? The researchers explicitly note that, with some additional testing and modifications, they might very well overcome these current limitations. Tweaking the electroporation, finding a more stable fluorescent tag, or getting those Morpholinos to last just a little bit longer, these are all totally viable next steps that could permanently upgrade this whole toolbox.
Which leaves us with this massive, tantalizing question to wrap up our explainer. If we can push past that 48-hour limit, what other secrets of tissue differentiation are we going to unlock? If scientists can extend this tool's battery life just long enough to watch exactly how newly formed cells decide what to become, we might literally be one step closer to understanding exactly how biology manages to rebuild complex, fully functioning limbs from scratch. It's an absolutely thrilling frontier.